Sudan is bleeding. Please help and support the people of Sudan.
Sudan is bleeding. Why is the world so quiet? Sudan is bleeding.
Sudan is bleeding.
Sudan is bleeding.
Sudan is bleeding. Please help us.
Sudan is bleeding.
Sudan is bleeding.
Sudan is bleeding.
Sudan is bleeding. Sudan is bleeding. Sudan is bleeding.
Sudan is bleeding.
Sudan is bleeding. Please support the aid for the Sudanese people.
Sudan is bleeding.
يمين يا بلدي تنتصري وتبقي عظيمة تزدهري. يمين يا بلدي تنتصري وتبقي عظيمة تزدهري. نفكر فيك بحرية ونعمل فيك بثورة.
Hi everyone, as my brother just said, this event is obviously, a fundraiser just to raise money for the people who have been displaced in the war and the people who have lost their homes. And I just wanted to come here and talk a bit about that. How many more of our mothers have got to awaken to the news that their son or daughter has been murdered unarmed every morning? How many more of our grandfathers will be brought to tears when they realize that the place they once called our home is now a land of destruction taken over by dictators? How much longer must our youth be framed against crimes and tortured, the bright futures that they once had being stripped away from them just because a few people were hungry for a bit of power? How much longer will innocent people have to lose their lives till the world opens their eyes and realizes that situation in Sudan is not just some conflict? The situation in Sudan is not just some African uncivilized country going through it. It's much more than that. Sudan is a country with such a rich history and such a rich culture. It's that country where if you run out of salt and you knock on your neighbor's door to ask for some, instead of giving you salt, they'll invite you in and they will make you dinner. It's that country where you can leave your front door open throughout the whole day and night and people will just be coming in and out to have tea with you. It's that country where you'll never go through anything alone, whether it's good times or tough times. People will be there for you. Sudan is that country where my grandma is your grandma and your granddad is my granddad. The level of hospitality in Sudan is honestly like no other, and I pray that one day our country will see peace and you will all get to go and experience it for yourselves someday. Ever since Omar al-Bashir gained presidency in October 1989, the country has fallen into a deep economic recession. There has been high inflation rates that are increasing till this day, more rapidly than ever before. The country is facing shortages of basic needs, medicine, fuel, bread, till this day. In December of 2018, 30 years of Omar al-Bashir defrauding the people of Sudan, and all the innocent civilians decided that they wanted to hold peaceful demonstrations, and I stress peaceful demonstrations, to fight for their basic human rights. But they were faced with even more corruption, more dictatorship. People were being murdered, tortured, and even raped. They couldn't be in the safety of their own homes without worrying for their lives. During the holy month of Ramadan, the protesters stayed out at camps and were still being tortured. In Ramadan, the month which is supposed to be a month of blessings, a month of charity, these people were going out and murdering people. Protesters stayed out in these camps in efforts to protect the country from further destruction, but instead they were faced with even more torture. Tear gas flooded their streets. People prayed in these camps, they fasted in these camps, and they even broke their fasts in these camps. The number of martyrs were increasing by the day. Every day there was about 20 different people being killed, most of them from the youth as well, who all they're trying to do is get Sudan to become how it was before. All they want is for themselves to have futures, for them to be able to go to university like normal people, to get degrees, to be able to do what we're doing here. I say this because we don't realize how lucky we are, We're here, we get free education, we get to, go to university, we get really good education and everything. You've got roofs over our heads and our people are struggling, and it really, really hurts to see. Young people were accused of drugs and as an excuse for the military to take them in and torture them even further. All this violence against unarmed civilians for what? Just because a few people were hungry for some power? It doesn't make sense to me, honestly. On the 11th of April 2019, Omar al-Bashir was finally overthrown. But this was not the end of it for Sudanese. A transitional military council with the army generals ruled Sudan immediately, trying to retain the power that they had. This was as good as it was going to get for the time being, so we kind of just had to live with that, but people were still not happy with this. So in the end, they decided on a council which was going to be a joint military transitional body with the civilians, and that was going to be an agreement in place until the 2022 national elections. Unsurprisingly, the military did not stick by this agreement and continued to raid the streets of Sudan, hungry for more power. They kidnapped the civilian president on the 25th of October, and Burhan immediately took control. The country just went downhill from here. Everything that was happening in 2019 was happening and worse. Bearing in mind the country was already struggling economically at this point. Schools have been shut for months and months. Children, young people sat at home, no education, it was literally not safe enough for them to go to school. It's not because, they didn't want to go to school, it was not safe for them to leave their houses, because you could literally be in your house and you would sit there fearing that, a bullet will come through or, tear gas will come in as you're sitting there, with your family. You could not do anything. People were being taken from their houses, houses were being raided. This was no longer, a political sort of conflict. This was just a group of people, heartless people, who are hungry for power, who just decided that they can have what they want just because they're on top. Eventually, after this was going on for a while, one group got a little bit more hungry for power and decided to impose a war on Burhan, which is the current president. So initially they were working together during all this violence upon the civilians, and they decided this isn't working, I want more power. So he decided to impose a war on Burhan. But during this war, they're still raiding homes. Although this war has got nothing to do with the civilians who are in Sudan, they were still being taken out of their houses. They are still being taken out of their houses. You could literally be driving your car down the road and they'll stop you. You've got no relation to any political party. You're just minding your business, trying to live a normal life. And they will stop you, and they will rob you, they will murder you if they want, they will take whatever it is they want, they do not care. Civilians are obviously trapped in the middle of this violence, like I said before, you could be sat in your house and they will break down the door, they will come into your house and they will take what they like. A lot of other things happened during that as well. They released prisoners from prison. They, put the country just in a really bad state overall. You got literally people walking around, robbing houses, doing whatever they like, and there's no one to tell them you can't do this, because all the people who are supposed to protect the country are apparently deciding they want to have a war and just do whatever they want without caring about their country. And it's really sad to see, because it's like a leader of a country is supposed to be the person who takes care of the civilians, the person who, helps people who are in need, puts laws in place to protect the people. But they're doing the exact opposite of that. Just because they have power, they're using it to their advantage and, putting Sudan in just honestly a horrible state. We actually do have a few people here today who were in Sudan during the war, so I'm going to let them speak about that later on, because they have, first-hand experience. But I know I've spoken about 2019 and what happened in 2019, but Sudan has been struggling way beyond 2019. Far too long. Think about it. Omar al-Bashir was president for 30 years. So way beyond that, Sudan has been struggling. I could sit here and I could tell you the stories of the pyramids, the deserts of gold, the stories of the Nile, but is it not enough that we are human for the world to care? We're tired of having to prove ourselves, prove our humanity. Nevertheless, though, I have honestly never seen such, resilience, and, the people of Sudan, they're going through these tough times, yet they've managed to keep it positive, they've always got smiles on their faces, they've still got, the morals, the values of Sudanese people, the togetherness of Sudanese people, they're helping each other throughout it all. So, honestly, as bad as everything is in Sudan, it's really nice to see how the Sudanese people, even through tough times, don't lose their morals, their values, all the stuff I mentioned at the start about Sudan, being that country where you can leave your door open. And my message to all my Sudanese people, brothers and sisters, we will not give up, we will not surrender, and we will restore our land. Inshallah, our country will be free from the likes of these perpetrators. We're just going to have a minute of silence to reflect on what I've just spoken about, starting now. If you'd like to stand up, that would be great. Thank you, everyone. You can sit down now. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I'd just like to say a big thank you to the organisers of this event that we've got put on, the Sudanese Community Association of Bristol. I'm going to hand over to Mohammed al-Sharif, who is, the main person in all these events and, helps out a lot.
Hi. Good evening. I think we'll thank you very much for coming and joining us to support the people of Sudan. it's really important, for the city to come together. I think what Aya said is, we're all human, and it's very impactful when you see what happened in Sudan, and you just need the support. Not just ourselves here, but the people in Sudan, we need your support, and just raising awareness of what happened there. So we'll start with our chair, Adel Tafalla, to say a few words about the situation, and I'm going to share with you some of the fundraising, what did we do so far, and how that really went into the ground. So give it to Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you very much, Muhammad. Thank you very much, my daughter Aya. And I call her my daughter. She's not my biological daughter, but this is the way in Sudan. And probably just the difference of generation between us shows up when she was using her mobile while I was using this thing. So, in the name of Allah, the all-beneficent, the all-merciful, the Lord Mayor, Madam Lord Lieutenant, the Mayor of Bristol, our honorable and respectable guests. It gives me a great pleasure on behalf of the Sudanese Community Association of Bristol to welcome you all here tonight. Let me first send our condolences to the families of those who have lost their lives in the military conflict in the Sudan since its independence in 1956, and in particular during the latest round of war, which started on the 15th of April 2023. Equally, our best wishes to those who were injured in the fighting or caught in the crossfire. And special prayer to the missing to go back safely to their loved ones. Ladies and gentlemen, early in the morning of April the 15th, the Sudanese people woke up by the loud rounds of machine guns and fierce explosions of bombs. Those were the sounds of an erupting war in the country. Although the Sudan witnessed many civil wars in the past, this latest one was unique in its scale and planning. The war started simultaneously in most of the 18 states of the Sudan, the third largest country in Africa, with an overall area of 1 million square kilometers and a population of around 40 million. Irrespective of who started the war and why, the result is the same. The main victim of this war are the innocent civilian population, and the humanitarian situation is now critical. And this is what concerns us tonight. Hundreds of civilians, about 850 and counting, have lost their lives. Over 5,000 injured. And the UN is expecting over 1 million to be displaced internally or in the neighboring countries. Ladies and gentlemen, Sudan is bleeding. The situation now is that the infrastructure was systematically destroyed. Transport systems brought to a halt. Commercial activities completely paralyzed. High street shops and marketplaces robbed and burned down. Electricity and water supplies interrupted. Public services, including health service, dysfunctional. Hospitals and main oil refinery had been occupied by fighting forces and used as barracks. Factories were wrecked and machinery tampered with. Personal properties ruined and robbed. Residential homes confiscated and their residents made homeless. And civilians consistently used as human shield for fighting forces. As a result, civilians, including children, women, and elderly, are suffering immensely. Children are literally starving to death after baby food factories were destroyed. Pregnant women, who are estimated to be around 250,000 in the state of Khartoum alone, facing bleak prospect as the main maternity hospital is now occupied by the fighting forces. Vital and life-saving medicines have gone off and spoiled in their stores due to long power cuts. Infectious diseases are becoming a major killer because of antibiotics shortages. Elderly people are dying because they can't get their regular medications for long-term diseases such as diabetes and hypertension, for example. Ladies and gentlemen, even schools and academic institutions were burned down completely or partially. Sudan is literally back to medieval times. Sudan is bleeding. Ladies and gentlemen, Sudan is crying for help now. And rebuilding the country is another massive challenge that is yet to come. We in the Sudanese Community Association of Bristol are trying to help as much as we can. We endeavor to bring the plight of the Sudanese people to the attention of the whole world and ask for their help. We started by contacting government officials as well as other politicians to interfere positively. And we are also simultaneously organizing fundraising events to collect financial and in-kind donations to send to the Sudan. This event tonight is one of such events. And we can assure you all, and we can assure all our friends and donors that every collected penny will be spent wisely and get safely to its intended destination. That will happen by joining our efforts and partnering with officially registered organizations that have the experience of successfully working in humanitarian field and delivering in the Sudan. We therefore do plead to your generosity and sense of humanity to help the people of Sudan. Ladies and gentlemen, Sudan is bleeding. Sudan needs your help. And with your help, we can make a difference. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran in verse 20 of chapter 73, وَمَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُم مِّنْ خَيْرٍ تَجِدُوهُ عِندَ اللَّهِ هُوَ خَيْرًا وَأَعْظَمَ أَجْرًا. This can roughly be translated as, whatever good you send forth for yourselves, you will find it with Allah far better and more rewarding. This concept has also been established and repeated in different wording and forms in all other scripture without exception. So please be generous, and many thanks again for being here and for your help. Thank you.
Hi, I'd just like to introduce one of the survivors of the war to the stage. Firstly,
My name is Summer Al-Hassan, and I'm one of the survivors that came from the evacuation in Sudan.
what was your experience like fleeing the country. How was that?
Well, honestly, Sudan was really great there. We had like fun and it was really nice and people were really happy there and all of that. But when the war suddenly happened, everything changed a lot and everything got destroyed and yeah.
Did you go to school, university? How did that affect like your education?
Well, since the first day, honestly, I was on university. It was like my first day, my last day on the exams of my semester, and we were revising for our exam. And then suddenly, my friend's phone got called. She was like, there is fighting between the RSF and the army. And then we suddenly had to pick our stuff and run back to our homes. And after I got after the bridge, and the bridge got closed, and my friends got locked in the university, and everything just suddenly changed in a while. So yeah.
So like, how has that affected you now coming back to the UK and like leaving Sudan and just leaving your family back home? How has that affected you?
Honestly, it affected a lot because there I started university and here I have to go to college and then go to university, and I lost some of my families. Even my dad is still there and he is holding the British passport, but he's there due to his mother hemophilia, and everything suddenly changed.
So like, how did you flee the country? What was it like when you fled? Where did you go? What happened? How tough was it?
So when they announced on Twitter, I've seen it on Twitter, when they announced that we had to leave, it was about 3 something. We had to leave really quickly. We packed up about 2 backpacks. This was all we took. And during the street where we're going to the airport, we had to cross bridges and RSF checking up on us and asking us a lot of questions, and we had to go through a lot of securities until we got onto the airport. And there we had to stay for about 24 hours till the plane because we had a problem due to my little sister. She didn't have a British passport, but all of us we did. So from there, we went to Cyprus with a military flight. From there, we came here to Stevenage. We stayed on a hotel, and then from there, we came to Bristol.
Wow, that must have been tough. So I'd like to end it off by asking you, like, what does Sudan mean to you as a country?
As a country, when the word Sudan pops right into my head, I really think about a lot of stuff. I think about my experience and the rich resources that we have. I think about the shooting and how people are suffering. I think about how the RSF are abusing women sexually and how 2 men are fighting over a chair so they protect themselves from being killed, and how people are suffering. And since the first day the war started, there wasn't any electricity, nothing, no water. People had to go out, but they can't because the shooting hadn't stopped since the first day that this happened. And it's been really tough for people. A lot of people immigrated to Egypt, to Ethiopia, and the major countries. And this cost them a lot of money. While there isn't any cash, the people had to go from Khartoum to Egypt to about 500k Sudanese pounds. And there's a lot of people there that didn't have this kind of money, so there's still there people in Khartoum and suffering. They can't find anything to go out there, and yeah, basically. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, sir.
So now we're going to be hearing from the Lord Mayor, the representative of the King.
Thank you for inviting me here tonight, and to hear that kind of powerful speech from people who've been in the country recently, and Aya's speech originally about the unfairness of it all, which is the overriding factor. It never ceases to amaze me, man's inhumanity to man, and why, through an accident of birth, one country's people suffer while we live in relative luxuries. But there you go. Normally, small men, big guns, they've already got power and money, but they want more and more and more. And again, it's the poor man and women that suffer. I don't really have words for it really, but I've worked a lot with the Sudanese community in Bristol, and I know how much they do for the city. They come here. I go out every Christmas with Mohammed and so forth, Muslims in Bristol, and they put so much into Bristol. So it's nice to see maybe Bristol giving a little bit back now. So I'd urge you to give what you can. It's hard to put it into words really how unfair it truly is. So I'll just say shukran and thank you for inviting me tonight, and I'll pass back on to someone who's got more knowledge on the subject than just me. So.
Thank you for that. Now we're going to hear from Peaches Golden, Madam Lieutenant Lord Mayor.
Thank you and good evening. It is my pleasure on behalf of King Charles III, the King of the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith, I bring greetings. It is a very sad story that we've heard spoken about so passionately by our two female contributors earlier today. And I understand the pain and the difficulty that you will all feel, whether you are Sudanese or whether you are from somewhere else. We can all understand what it is like for our home to be threatened, for our families to be separated, for our relatives to be charged for criminal offenses that they did not make. We understand the horror of war. I must congratulate the Sudanese Community Association for so rapidly coming together to put on this evening's recognition of the challenges and hardship and heartache that is being faced by your country people. I'm very sorry that it is like this. But I think one of the things I know is Bristol is a city of sanctuary. It is a place where people of diverse backgrounds and heritages and different religious beliefs are welcome. So I want to extend that welcome to you, to your families, because I know that in good time you will be contributing and making our city and our country strong because of the skills, the experience, the dedication, the resilience, as you mentioned earlier, that you bring to us. So you are very welcome here. You are very welcome here.
Thank you for that. Now we are going to hear from Marvin, the Mayor of Bristol. Where's Marvin?
Surprise. I think very much of the Lord Mayor and Lord Lieutenant to start by just saying thank you to the Sudanese community of Bristol. first really got an entry into Sudanese community by working with Mohammed when we were in the health service together. And over the years, just witnessed what an incredible contribution he and the community in general have not only have been determined to make, actually, which is quite incredible, and then subsequently made. And it's important for Bristol to recognise that, and we here today do. I think playing on from that are the very points that Peach has picked up. Bristol has made two declarations about what we want to be as a city. It doesn't mean, when we make these declarations, it doesn't mean we are that thing. It means this is what we intend to be, we believe we should be, and we are working towards. One of those is that we are a city of sanctuary. That means we want to be a place where people can find hope, find community, find connectivity, find restoration, find safety, all the things it means to find, all those things that we find in sanctuary. I would say too, that actually means we should be a source of that. So it shouldn't just be something we do within our city boundaries, but how do we become a source of energy for other cities, other places in the world to be places of sanctuary too. But we have more control over what we do inside our wall boundaries, so we're a city of sanctuary. The other is that we're a city of hope. And actually, coming full circle back to Sudanese community, on the plaque, on the wall of City Hall in the main foyer is a plaque, and it says Bristol, City of Hope. And that plaque was actually presented to Bristol by Mohammed, along with Rob Scott Cook, who's the of Woodlands Church. And again, it's not that we are this thing right now, it's something that we intend to be and we work towards. And by being a city of hope, what we mean is that irrespective of the circumstances you find yourselves in today, we want to be a city that has a collection of organisations, relationships, communities that mean that there is a hope that tomorrow can be better than today. And that being that source of hope is what we want to be a reality for people within our city boundaries. But again, we want to be a source of hope for people around the world as well by, extending. And some of you may know that, that as a city we're pretty active, on the international stage, making sure our voices are heard as to what kind of world we want to be in. And that really plants us firmly with our community here and with what's going on in Sudan and the heartbreaking stories we're hearing about tonight, but just what we're hearing about on the news, as well, that we will do all we can, we need to do all we can as a city to offer our solidarity to our Sudanese brothers and sisters, in the city. And I'm going to just share politically too. I want to be clear that I think that the level of support we see offered to anybody who's fleeing conflict should be the same. And what I want to see is a country that humanises Sudanese people the same way as European victims of war have been humanised. And I think it's a shame that that is not the norm. That's not to take away from anything that's been done in Bristol over the wars in Europe, but it's to say that we should reach that standard for everyone, irrespective of their country, continent of origin, or the colour of their skin. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to say, we've had all these talks, thank you everyone who has spoken, but I just wanted to say, don't wait for us to, hold these events and blow up our social media with posts about Sudan, because honestly, your donations do go a long way. Like, a little bit of money here will literally help a whole family in Sudan, provide them food and a roof over their head. So, don't just go home from this event and just think, the event's over. Keep thinking about it, do some research, and because it does go a long way. Mohammed Sharif has got a presentation about the aid. Now is the main course, so we hope you enjoy. Hope you're enjoying everything so far.
Yes, so the main course will be handed out. I'm going to pass over to Muhammad Sharif, and he's going to talk us through the aid and the fundraising and essentially how this event is helping.
Thank you very much, and good evening again. I think what we're trying really to share with you is, I think the mayor before the break talks about Bristol, and we're really lucky to be in Bristol. Bristol is a city which really, I don't know how to describe it, the city which really stand together. And this is one of the evidence that when we start looking at the fundraising and the support in the Sudan, I know there's a national issue, I know there is still not the intentions we want from the national government to support, and the international community as well, because there's no aid at all going into Sudan. And this is really very sad. So when here in Bristol as the Sudanese community, we said we're not going to wait. We're not going to wait for international community to support our brothers and sisters, our fathers and mothers and young people in the Sudan. So we took the responsibility ourselves to try to fundraise. And so far, we raised about 10,000 in the last couple of weeks. As I said, it's great for Bristol, coming. The most important thing is to say thank you to the women of the Sudanese communities. They are the backbone of this. And all of the fundraise and the efforts we made because of their help and support and contribution. A lot of the event, as you can see, is about food selling. And the women have really worked very hard, and the families as well, to support that. So we had about 3 food stall fundraising. We had also collection from the mosque, and I want to say thank you for all the mosques who contributed into this. And in addition to that, we have supported directly from the Sudanese community themselves, who really, in spite of the challenge and in spite of the struggle they have and the support from their families, they generously contribute into that. So this is really show the fundraising. A lot of people asking how that fund goes into communities, how that go into the people in the Sudan. And as I said, there's no international organizations working in the country. What we have is we have very strong activist networks in the ground, and we're very connected. And you'll be surprised to see that even though the international, organizations say they cannot get into the people, my WhatsApp and other WhatsApps shows how it's really going down into, activists. You're going to see a video of the people who are distributing it in the street, and they're going into, so each neighborhood there is a team, and it's all young activists, women and men, taking this, aid into people, knocking doors, working through pharmacies, which is still open, and making sure people getting the money to buy the medicines and all. So people talk about the struggle, but also I want to talk about how fantastic our young people and activists in the Sudan has really stepped up, and they replaced the system with a lot of support comes from us and other people as well. So I'm going to share a video from one of our very active women in the ground. Her name is Najda Mansour, and she's one of the activists who are running a network of support in the Sudan, in the Khartoum. All the bombing, all the destructions, they're there, collecting, supporting, and I'm going to share this video. Also, we have videos from all other areas where there is a need for support, from Madani, from Shandi, from Niala now supporting people, Kadugli, really going into where the need is directly. And I'm going to share this video because it's important to see, in spite of all we hear about Sudan, there's a heroes and heroines who are really supporting the people. Let's listen to the video.
Worsening every second. Just yesterday, I was in a visit to my neighbor, and her child was crying because there is no water for her to drink. That was devastating. And just the next day, I went to the same neighbor to check on her, and I found out that she didn't have bread for the children for dinner. It was really devastating for me, and it's the same for everybody. Nobody is an exception now from hunger, thirsty, and this is maybe better than the situation of others who are now under the bombardment. I am a displaced person from an area where there was aerial bombing. Some people passed away. We have moved to another area which I suppose was safe. But when I came here, I was shocked by the situation of the people here. So the situation, as we knew it right from the start, we tried to intervene because when I checked the organizations with the mandate to work during the wartime, like the Red Cross, they couldn't work because the pathways were not safe, and still there is no safe hospitals. However, we tried to work through a network, a vast network with some of our colleagues and activists, and we have followers in the Facebook who will provide us with very wide range of coverage of the cases. So we try to provide the information, the drugs, where to find the drugs, and we try to support with the prices of the drugs in case we can buy. We focus on the life-saving drugs. We try to provide that for people. Well, that was done through personal efforts and from our own pockets. We try to share the people through what we have. We divided what we call in Sudan the rate. And that is not strange in the Sudanese context. And of course, the participation of many of the Sudanese people, particularly the community of the Sudanese in the UK, Bristol was a life-saving intervention for many people. Many people couldn't buy their food, water, or drug, and it is only through the money provided by the community in Bristol that we could provide these essentials. And we still hope for the best, because even before the eruption of the war, of course, there are people who are disadvantaged, like the orphanage and the disabled persons and the unaccompanied children. All these are cases we used to work on, and now it is really devastating how they live. Most of them, some of them passed away. A case of a girl who is an orphan. She's just like 12 years old, and she was disabled. During the bombardment, the early days, she passed away because she couldn't move to avoid the shelling. And still, most of them are expecting. I'm sorry, I get emotional, and I get emotional. And I always get emotional whenever I remember this girl, because she's what you can call it, she's cross, she has this, sorry, pardon me. And it's the same for her sisters in the orphanage, because even now, the place which many people left, we left them behind, actually, because we couldn't move them. There are 50 of them, and we couldn't move them from the area where they live, though it is a very dangerous area. But other than being in this situation, they have this stigma, because they are stigmatized, because they are born out.
Yeah, when are you going to celebrate the next
November 25th?
I'll invite you on email, not on Facebook.
I will invite you. I'm so sorry.
This is, as I said, to show how the aid is getting to people. Very important, really, to
we need to sit down and have it.
we're trying our best to support people in the Sudan. With the little we have, and I said generously being contributed, hundreds of families being supported. Literally, I have really a report of all the families being supported around medications, food. In addition to that, we contributed around 2,000 from that money into the Sudanese Doctors Union, who are really working on the ground to support people, to provide medicines. We have a representative of the doctors here as well this evening, and really ensure that we at least do our best to support the people in absence of international aid agencies. So thanks for being here. Thanks for contributing as well, because as you said, it's really going to the people in the ground. I think before I finish, I think I do want to introduce. I'm going to stop, so I will do them with that.
We're going to have one more speech from Wendy. I'm going to let Wendy do all her introductions, introduce herself, but give it up to Wendy.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good evening. I hope you're all enjoying your evening here this evening. Please forgive me, I'm a little bit nervous, hence why I'm reading off my phone this evening, but I did feel it's really incredibly important for me to speak tonight because it's so precious. Sudan is incredibly precious and special to me. My name is Wendy Raymond. I'm a teaching assistant at Montpellier High School, and I'm here tonight to speak about my personal experience of Sudan and my family in Omdurman, and also the fundraising efforts of the girls at Montpellier High School. I first visited Sudan in 2012. After that, I returned every other year for a few months at a time and have everlasting memories of this warm and welcoming country. Memories that are imprinted on me that I'd like to share with you this evening. I remember how the silver paint atop the Mahdi's shrine shimmers in the blistering midday sun. How the intoxicating chants of Sufi dervishes reach their crescendo every Friday evening at Hamad al-Nil. How shoppers are spoilt for choice by the cornucopia of colourful leatherwares, baskets, crocodile, camel and ostrich paraphernalia, and every kind of silver, gold and beadwork that can be found at the infamous Souk Omdurman. The endearing decor of the Grand Holiday Villa Hotel. The tiny glass cups of chai, lovingly prepared by tea ladies on sandy Nile Street, on warm, comforting evenings under the stars. And of course, how can I forget plastic bins turned upside down for drumming and singing sessions with family members, especially during power cuts, which my children love beyond all else. But most of all, the warmth and sincerity of the Sudanese people. For these reasons, especially the last, my husband and I decided in March to move our family to Khartoum. We found a flat in Garden City, we registered our children in school. We bought one-way tickets, and I started preparing everything for a new life in the country that I'd come to love. Until nearly 1 month later, on Saturday 15th of April, when everything changed. Since that Saturday, we've witnessed from afar, where we have no control over anything, how lives have been ripped apart by ill-intentioned forces, supported by internal and external forces, with little condemnation on the world stage. Forces who do not have Sudan's best interests at heart. Our family is now scattered across Port Sudan, Egypt and Saudi. I thank God my mother-in-law, who is here tonight, thank God, made it here safely on a long and arduous journey through Egypt. However, we still have so many family members at acute risk. Family needing insulin and cancer medication, elderly relatives, young children, and a cousin who is newly pregnant. We've been living each day waiting for the latest update of patchy news to come across social media, but powerless to bring our family to safety. Which leaves us with only one thing to do here: to continue to raise funds and awareness about the desperate situation in Khartoum, which is what the Sudanese community and those who support and care have been doing since that Saturday. Even amidst the initial shock, I saw how people jumped into action to help one another. At Montpellier High School, we saw an impassioned group of Year 10 students and other year groups rally together to plan a bake sale in aid of Sudan, and they're keenly working hard to plan for another fundraising mission at the end of year summer fete in June. Although my hopes have been shattered of a life that could have been, I am an optimistic person, and I know the kindness and the bravery of the Sudanese people. Warm and welcoming people who greet those in need like a neem tree shades the weary wanderer from the dry desert heat. And like the neem tree, the Sudanese people are resilient, and I know they will overcome these challenging times, and Sudan will be rebuilt and will prosper, and it will fulfill its huge potential, inshallah. Thank you.
So in a minute we're going to hear from the Bristol Mosque chairs, but before that we're going to hear from a group of young Sudanese girls ages about 10 to 11 who organised their own bake sale and raised around £300 all on their own. So I'm going to welcome them to the school.
Hi, my name is Steve, and I'm Sarah, and I'm Serene. Today we're here to quickly talk about the big sale that we did at our school to raise money for Sudan. I thought of that idea after I saw what was happening in Sudan. I thought that it was unfair that family had to get through these conditions and they didn't have any help or support. First, we had to talk to our head teacher, Mrs. Wells. We had to find a good time to arrange it. Once all that was sorted, we designed a poster and stuck them all around the school. We also had to prepare all the supplies.
Yes, thank you.
I made two pieces of the Sudan flag on them, like the ones that you saw when you came in that were on the date. Also, all the food was a lot of work. The bake sale was very successful, and our friends helped us sell all the delicious food. The mums helped us set up the tables, but other than that, it was all us students. The food included chocolate cakes, lejama, which are Sudanese donuts, and these were served with Sudanese flag toothpicks. There were also cupcakes with Sudan flags on them. In total, we raised £327, and we are very grateful for everyone who bought from our cake sale to support Sudan. We would also like to give a special thanks to Mrs. Wells, our head teacher, for letting us do this great project. Mahmoud, Maya, and Mona, our classmates, for helping us, and lastly, all the moms who made this delicious food. We would like you to also help our country by doing something as simple as selling lemonade, or you might also want to do a bake sale. But just remember that every donation helps us support families across Sudan. And there's also a donation box. I think it's near the entrance where you can donate money.
That was really amazing, honestly. Anyways, now we are going to hear from two of the mosque chairs, representatives.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Here we are on a very sad occasion. We hear time and time again, Sudan is bleeding. We see it time and time again, it is bleeding. This is time for us to stand together. It doesn't matter about your creed, your color, your faith. This is not about any religion. This is about humanity. And we feel sorry for those people who are oppressed in Sudan. There's killings day to day, rapes, etc. I mean, I personally come from Kashmir myself, and I witnessed those since childhood, and I know what it's like to go through such torture, especially with your immediate family members, your relatives, and when you see it and you grow up, believe me, it brings tears in your eyes. So I appeal to all of you here and the wider public that would be listening to what I'm saying, that we must reach out. This is merely a drop in the ocean what we are doing tonight for them. We must keep on doing it. We must keep on helping them. Where are the so-called humanitarians and United Nations and these big politicians? Why are they not involved at this stage? I'm not saying because it's Sudan, no. If it's Ukraine, if it's Kashmir, wherever it is in the world, it could be in floods up north, floods down Somerset. There we are, we stand together and we help those poor people. Right now, Brother Muhammad and the rest of the Sudanese community have worked very hard. They've reached out to our mosques, they've appealed to the mosques, and mosques are involved. But on the other hand, it should not be just mosques. It should be the multi-faith groups, maybe churches, synagogues, mandirs, gurdwaras. We all should get involved, and vice versa. So my appeal to you is, please reach out to those poor people. You cannot imagine what kind of Ramadan they went through. 16, 17 hours going without any food or drink while you're fasting, and yet not knowing whether there's going to be food on your plate when you break your fast. Please, all of you listening out there, reach out to those poor people. They need my help, they need your help. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's amazing to see you all in this room. Great people, all our Sudanese brothers and sisters who've been working relentlessly past few weeks. Yet one more war been inflicted on the people of Sudanese. And whenever there is a war, the most affected people is the children, poor and women. We, Bristol community, proved again and again, wherever or whenever, anywhere in the world, when there is a disaster strike or the war happens, the Bristolian community as a whole, we stand together for the people, and we will be working with the Sudanese community. From my Bangladeshi community in Bristol, we will be standing together to help out and reaching out to our brothers and sisters in Sudan. Not only in Sudan, whenever and wherever any natural disaster war happening, we'll be standing together, we'll be working together for the people who are affected mostly. And I would like to say something about the humanitarian act and the brotherhood within the Sudanese community. I was passing a few years ago, and a group of Sudanese taxi driver brothers were not working the busiest time of the night. They was having a gathering in front of the college green, and I just stopped and I said, why are you not working? They said, listen, you can earn money, you can live your life. If you are leaving tomorrow, you'll earn your money. But this is what the brotherhood and hats off for the Sudanese. You are working hard and you will be overcome, inshallah, with the help of the Bristolian community and the humanitarian aid worker around the world. We will overcome together, inshallah. Thank you once again. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for coming to the event today. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope it was useful. I'm going to pass over to Hamad Sharif to do the final parts of the event.
Thank you very much. I think what we're going to have here, a 15-minute panel really to look at what's going to happen next. Yes, we started looking at the aid and the support, and that will continue, but there's more important things. So can I call on Mike Jameson, and Mike Jameson is Director of MediaWise and Media Trust, a very well-known journalist in Bristol, an activist as well and a campaigner. So Mike really will join us in a 15-minute panel to talk about how can we take this nationally, how can we get the media involved as well. Also, Abdi Umar from Ashley Housing and Saeed, I don't know who's going to join us in the panel, to talk about housing. One of the biggest issues we have in Bristol is particularly the families who arrived from the Sudan evacuated housing, a challenge on how can we really support them in that. And also our High Sheriff of Bristol, Sharon Foster, will join us in the panel, because it's about how can we influence, how can we talk, in a national level and, through the legal routes on how we support. I have families here who steal their children in the Sudan. They're not allowed to come to the country because the mother is a Sudanese. The father is a British, the children are British. They said you cannot take the mother. You can take the children and the mother stays. There's a lot of inhumane really policies which is happening in the Sudan. We want to talk about it. So I'll start with Mike just to really look at the media coverage and what's happening, in the Sudan compared to, as what the mayor said, is an unequal, I think, approach of humanitarian aid. So I don't know what you think, and how can we work with the media?
About putting you on the spot. I want to start by saying that some of the first people to be attacked when things go wrong are the journalists, the ones who are trying to tell the truth. And about 20 years ago, we set up a thing called the Exiled Journalists Network. And I think the first journalist that we looked after at that time was from South Sudan. And it was later I met Mohammed al-Sharif, and we had more than 200 journalists from all over the world who were the first port of call when coups happened or when the politics got out of hand. So journalists are well aware of the issues. The problem is that they know very little about Sudan, it seems to me. And because they've been told that it's very difficult to get in, it's too dangerous, Sudan's not really on the agenda. And we have to watch Al Jazeera or Euronews in order to find out the latest information. But there is something that all of us can do, everybody here can do, to try and alert the media to some of the issues. Find any excuse to write a letter to your local paper. The hyperlocals, the Bristol Voice ones, or the Evening Post, or the BBC, or HTV. Try and raise an issue, and it may be the fact that you've noticed that there are more families who come to Bristol, or that there isn't sufficient housing. But I have, one of the issues that you could raise is that if people have got a spare room, they could take somebody in. I have a guy from Khartoum staying at my place at the moment. I have another guy from Afghanistan staying at my place at the moment. If you've got a spare room, you can tell people what you're doing. And that raises an issue in the local press, and then get a neighbour, a friend, to respond to your letter. And if you start getting a debate going in the local papers, the editors begin to think, hey, there's a story here, we need to find out a bit more. So that's one of the things, a very simple thing that anybody and everybody here can do. And I think a really impressive thing of this evening for me has been the way the young people have organised this thing and then told us about their efforts. That's the sort of thing that makes great stories. So why not let the newspapers know about that? It's just a sort of sideways in. And journalists love to look, what we call lateral thinking, looking sideways at the problem, not tackling it head on, but finding a way in to make people think. And that's something we can do. We can't change so easily the national press, but locally we could raise awareness. So I would urge you to try and use that as a way not only of raising awareness, but also of raising funds too.
Thank you very much. I think again it's really important if you can really help, with writing, talking to MPs or media contacts. That's part of your help. I want to talk to Sharon as well around what I said about the legal side of it. We have a lot of families. Summer shared her story earlier, and she was almost stopped from coming to the UK because one of the siblings has no British passport, and it was a lot of push with the MPs and campaigning. I have a Sudanese father who lives in Bristol, the British, with the British children in the Sudan, and the wife was a Sudanese. She went into the airfield and they told her, no, you can take the children, you're not going. And as a result, the children and the mother are still in the Sudan, in the middle of the world. And that the British, official decision not to take the mother with the children. The children said, we're not going to leave our mother behind. This is really happening, and I have, cases. So I don't know legally, and I know Sharon is more, representative around the legal, and you work very closely with, legal. Is there anything we can do to raise awareness and get some of the legal support for people, or just the campaigning as well?
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here this evening in support. With the legal side, it's always difficult. It's always a challenge, and it's always good to be consistent. And the consistency is based around you challenging and campaigning with your local councillors and your MPs. Don't be afraid to do that. That's where also write to all the other MPs, the members of Parliament, but you need to be consistent. Also your local solicitors, write a letter, drop a letter in, make them aware, because sometimes their practices doesn't really include that type of work, but their colleagues do. The Law Society is very active with the community, and they will be able to instigate and do things. What you need to do is as well, when they have surgeries, the counsellors, they all have surgeries in your area. You need to go to those surgeries. When I say surgeries, it's not like a doctor's, they just hold meetings and they call them surgeries. When it comes to election, what does your councillor do? What happens? What do they do? Don't they knock at your door? They all knock at your door. When they see you in the street or they see you somewhere, what do they say to you? They want your vote. So why can't you get something back from them? Yes? That's what they're there for. They're there to serve you, the community. So that's what you need to do. You need to be persistent. You need to tackle them, give them the information, and say, I need your help because my family or my friends need this to happen, and they will do it. If you just need to be a thorn in their sides, basically. Don't give up, because when they need your vote, they're coming to you for it.
I think this is really important things going forward around how can we ensure that people are really getting the right support in the Sudan. I know some people have their elders, mothers, and fathers who are ill in the Sudan. They're in the middle of the war there. I'm sure you all followed the BBC article with the Sudanese British women who died starving in front of the British embassy in the Sudan. This is really a lot of cases of the Sudanese citizens who have relatives here who now they're in the middle of the war. We want to find a way how we can really at least have an equal policy of protecting the Sudanese citizens. I go to the local because I know there's a few of the individuals and the families who've been evacuated. When they came here, we had really to go out to the media and campaign because they weren't able to access the support, the housing they needed. They're British citizens, they escaped war, they come to Bristol, and there was no policy. And we have really to struggle and work with, you know, city leadership and the media to ensure that there's a policy which, you know, there's still issues around that. So I know a few people here who are either in temporary accommodation, they don't know what's going to happen to them. So we have Abdul from, you know, Ashley Housings, and they've been great, really supporting refugees and migrants. We want to really show how can we support some people. I know, as Mike said, Mike is kindly providing a room for one of the Sudanese evacuation members who not having the right, you know, accommodation. So I don't know what is the solution? What can we do?
Thank you very much, Mohammed. I think it's very, very important. Seeking help, seeking information is very important. And as our friends said, actually talk to your MPs, councillors, politicians. I know Councillor Yassin is just looking at me. He's one of them. He's sitting there. So ask them. Absolutely is very, very important. Yes, Bristol at the moment is a tough, but on the legal side, sometimes, as a Somali, we have experience, similar to you guys. We tend to actually just ask our close friends, and we think they have the solutions. Seek advice, seek legal advice, seek help, and that's the most important thing. Yes, we have a values, we have a culture, absolutely, that will take you through. It's very, very important. Our housing manager said is there. We work, actually, housing community work with refugees, so Dean is here, so our business side. So we work with refugees, especially single men and women. There is a waiting list, I know, sometimes, Muhammad knows the situation, but seeking legal advice is very, very, very important. If you just actually go through the informal channels, sometimes it will take you a long, long, long time. You might have actually the right, you might have entitled to, and telling your stories is very, very important. As Mike said, people need to hear your voice. That is very, very important. And also, my final thing, in addition to that, I will say, do not forget your service. You will be tuned over there, thinking about your loved ones, but you might neglect yourself in terms of emotional, mental health, and your school children. In addition to housing, one day I work in a secondary school, and I provide mentoring to young Somalis. It's very, very important. Those of you actually go out there, help young people. Your children, they will overhear you talking about back home. They will actually sit next to you. They will see you emotionally distressed. So it's very, very important that they have the support that they need. So that is my advice. And actually, we've been there, we've done that. As they say, it's very, very important. So I think it's very, very important to organize those things. So our advice, and sometimes, yes, I will actually conclude that do not forget yourself. Mental health is very important, okay? And those things I have seen working with the Somali community, the silent killers, PSTD, mental health, diabetes, all these things, it comes from worrying, anxiety, and this is what we have. So yes, we'll come together, we'll support each other, you will support each other definitely, but seek help and support yourself. Do not forget yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we will, this is a start for us as we're looking at all this issue. We will call on your support, definitely you going forward. We hope that will stop in the Sudan, and there will be the biggest challenge, which is about rebuilding the country. For time being, we really appreciate that. Do you want to say?
I just want to say something about the housing as well. Don't forget your local authority, the council. They're there. They're supposed to do help and support. I know initially they didn't have a policy, and that the policy they just had a general policy. They weren't prepared, but they were waiting on national, because National hadn't given out guidelines, but they can work and do better with the policy that they have until they get full guidelines from National. So they should be able to do emergency accommodation. Even if someone went and said, oh, you know, they came yesterday and they may say, oh, do you have any friends or family? If you don't have any friends or family, they're there to help with emergency accommodation or temporary accommodation. But that's what they're there for. Don't be afraid. If you don't know, ask someone. They're at 100 Temple Street. That's a citizen service point. Find yourself there. Give them the information about your situation and let them follow it through.
Thank you very much. I think we're coming to the end of this evening, and you know, before we really need to say thank you for the Sudanese women. They are really the one who are behind all that work. I want them to come to the stage. So Asia, Muna, Shireen, yeah, all the people who have, please come here, because I think for them to say the final word, really appreciate all the hard work, as I said earlier, really supporting, not just the fundraising, just holding the families together, all the struggle, and they go the struggle themselves, you know, with their families, and they're still really here, you know, standing up, supporting, working very hard. So really special thanks to them, and I really insist they come into here because they need to be in the state. Please do. Please come. They need to say the final word, and really thank you very much for all your hard work. You've been, I said, the backbone of this community. So I'll give them the final word.
Hi. First of all, this is a great team. This is the ladies who always, you know, make sure that we get fed, that we are organized, and so on. And especially thanks to Umayman, Yusra, and Najla, who's always helped us in the kitchen and make sure everything is done. I hope you enjoyed the meal, and thank you for coming, because this is a fundraising, so thank you so much for coming and supporting this good cause. And hopefully always think of Sudan, and always bring it up on your social media, wherever you go. Thank you so much.
I think these are the program today. Thank you so much. Have a good night and enjoy tomorrow. So if you have the coffee, I don't think you're going to sleep today. But yeah, it's from Sudanese coffee, and please try it, and I'm sure you're not going to sleep.
Yeah, but you look at the housing. You have a lot, and you talk to the housing. Who's in charge of the housing? The private housing.